Hey guys, Goldsman7 here. I graduated recently, as I think I mentioned in a previous video, and it's really, I don't know if it's radically shifted my view on friendships, but it's changed it quite a lot. And this kind of comes with the experience of being friends with kind of mid-20-ish people ever since I was around 16 because of my involvement in politics. No one my age wants to do it. Even less people in my age bracket want to do it than the 20 to 25 kind of sector. So I spent some time hanging out with them, having graduates. Quite difficult to find friends or maintain those kind of connections. I would still argue it's infinitely easier than school, even though we're forced into a mosh pit in a sense at school. So this is why. At school, there is hundreds of arbitrary rules of social engagement. There is a legitimate chance of bullying, especially if you're a bit of a loser, like the kind of guy who associates himself with politics at 16 is. You can obviously find in-groups, and it's kind of more available to you immediately, but there are just genuine barriers set up for a whole variety of people. It's definitely easier for some people, but there are plenty of others who won't strive. Whereas in real life, where your availability, especially living relatively rurally like myself, your availability is infinitely more. Oh wait, did I fuck that up? In school, your availability is infinitely more. Loads of people, sure. In real life, it isn't. However, it kind of is. Let's say you live rurally, like I do. Even rurally, I could go onto Facebook right now, or Instagram, or a variety of other social media things, and look for groups in my local area, hiking groups. There is actually quite a lot of winery stuff out here. I could find a wine tasting club or something. Not even something I'm necessarily socially interested in, right? And I could just go up to those people, and holy shit, once you get into the real world, the rules of social engagement are just kind of stripped back to their essentials. I'm gonna give an example of this. This is something in hindsight I kind of should have seen coming. When I wasn't totally sure I was interested in politics to the degree I am, I went to the party I'm now associated with. They had a youth thing, in a city. I'm kind of rural. I think on the way there I actually fucked up the trains. There was a connection line I was supposed to take, and I was half an hour late. And I was stressing because actually I probably would have been 17 at the time, and these were all mid-20-year-olds, and the location was a bar, right? At first I didn't even think I was allowed in because, still underage, but it turns out I was just not allowed to drink, which was probably a good thing. I definitely would have said something about Israel that I shouldn't have if I had it. But I went up there. I think I was standing looking inwards, and I felt a slap on my back, and I turned around, and the guy who I'd been talking to a little bit, he was like, hey, he was behind me. He was also 30 minutes late. He literally came in at the same time as me. It was crazy. He was like, hey, let me introduce you to some of the guys. And he did, and the entire time I was talking to them, it was kind of a little stilted. I was kind of following the same patterns you learn socializing at school, to an extent, right? And it wasn't they could really tell. It wasn't I was being incredibly awkward or stiff or anything. It was just kind of a vibe. So eventually, I kind of left, and they went back to talking amongst themselves, and there was another guy at the back who wasn't really talking as well. He was kind of early 20s. He's a hell of a lot smaller than me. I'm quite a big guy, but he looked a little awkward. I went up to him and I was like, hey, and we just started talking, and because at this point I'm relatively socially astute. I picked up the cues around me, and I was like, oh, no one's really socializing the way you socialize at school. So I keyed it back, and it was so fucking crazy. It's kind of an accepted rule of engagement at school. You keep the scope of your topics relatively narrow. This is this guy's interest, this is my interest, it intersects, we just talk about that. But holy shit, the conversations I was having with these guys, it was just it was crazy. 1 minute they'd be talking about esoteric policy stuff to do with our preferred party, and the next minute it was favorite video games, and I was talking about fucking Spore, and then this other guy was talking about, oh my god, what was it, Fable maybe, and then this other guy was Bioshock, because they were all in their 20s. So I like those kind of games aesthetically that they were playing when they were my age kind of. It was crazy. It's possible that it was specifically at my school, but yeah, it was blew my fucking brain. Even crazier, I could just walk up to these people and just talk to them, you know? Like, I didn't have to know them, I didn't have to get to know them through a friend. It was just, like, literally, I'd finished my conversation with those guys previously, right? I think one of them needed to go, the other guy had gone to the toilet, and he was taking a while, so I walked over, and there was this couple sitting there, and they were just talking about something unrelated, right? And I was just kind of standing there awkwardly. I didn't really know what to do. The woman just, like, I didn't even realize she'd noticed me, but she, like, pulled out a seat and patted it, and I just kind of, like, sat down, like, awkwardly. And then, like, literally the next second, I think, oh, she was so cool. I think she had a position in Minister for Women, I think. And we were just talking about how much we hated another party. I'm not going to tell you which. And it was just, it was incredible. After high school, rules of engagements are stripped down to, like, nil, and that's great. And if you can find a group of people, you're set, kind of, because you can just talk about anything, like your interests, your non-interests, your dislikes, like literally anything goes at any point in time, and it's crazy. And, like, there's no chance of, like, being bullied. Like, it wasn't a problem for me. I was a big guy, but it happened to plenty of my friends, especially in their youth, and it just doesn't exist there, you know? Like, it's just crazy. Like, at worst, like, you say something socially, you know, unacceptable, like, you'll get, like, a glare, like a side-eye, you know? Like, usually people socially astute enough to just play it off, you know? Like, that brings me on to, like, my next kind of topic. Relationships in general, like, broader, they're so much less defined than they were at school, you know? At school, it was, like, situationships, all the minutiae in between dating and not dating was just boiled down into the single point of, you know, they're dating or not dating, right? But in, like, real life is just so much more complex, and I think that's a great thing, right? Like, I feel like that metric kind of sets you up for failure, embarrassment in a sense, or, like, the lack of willingness to approach it, because you either succeed or you don't, right? But in real life, I go up to a girl, I talk to her, and I like her, and I go, I kind of have feelings with you. You want to go on a date afterwards? And obviously this requires, like, a degree of having done this kind of thing before, a degree of confidence building up, etc., obviously, right? And she goes, yes, no, maybe. Like, and that's, like it. And I'm not, like, a crazy attractive guy. I built up a bit of charisma, like, you know, over the little while of spending all that time with people way outside, like, the usual scope of people I'd spend time with. Actually, earlier today, I got kind of rejected. There was this girl I'd been talking to. We were in, like, a situationship phase, and we were both decently attracted to each other. She was like, I'm not ready, and, like, that was actually true, for one. It wasn't just being fobbed off on me. You know, we talked about a bunch of shit together, and, like, she was clearly, like, physically relatively attracted to me, but she refused to put, like, a metric on it, like, I want to be in a situationship with you, I want to do this with you, etc. She kept it really broad. So, like, it was legitimate, for one. And for two, it was like, well, like, okay, you know, like, all right, that's fine, you know? Like, it wasn't, the failure didn't, like, depress me, it didn't, you know, affect me in any way. It was like, okay, this didn't work out, but I don't feel bad about myself. I don't, you know, hate myself for failing to reach the metric of dating. It was kind of always just a sliding scale that was moving up, moving down, moving up, moving down, even, like, up to the point where she was, I'm not ready for this. It was kind of like, oh, okay, I could kind of sense that it was, like, on the down and out in that way. And that's great. I like that so much more than, like, the binary that was, I don't want to say imposed on us at school, but it really was. Like, anyway, that's my thoughts on it. See ya.